Welcome to another episode of the Politrickks Usual podcast. Today I got my man Jahmane with me.
Peace.
Very special episode, big history. I know you don't know what I know about you, but I know the history, a little bit about culture and all of that. So we're going to tell the viewers about what you do, how you started, what's your mission, your art, and just everything about you, bro, because I know you're super duper creative. And I've been following you without following you for like 20, 30 years.
I better. I mean, it just all started wanting to create. You know, as a kid coming up in the late '80s, early '90s, but really, mid '80s is where it really got sparked. You know, the whole evolution of hip hop and hip hop culture coming out of the Bronx, developing before it was really known as hip hop. You know, we were doing things that contributed to the culture, but as kids, we didn't know it would become this bigger culture. So it was doing graffiti art, getting into breakdancing, listening to early hip hop, break beats and music.
Where you from?
Born and raised in Norwalk.
One thing I noticed. One thing I noticed about Norwalk, right? Because I'm really good friends with Billy Bush. Like I was young, obviously he's older, but from your era, like there's a lot of creatives in Norwalk, and like not just creatives, but like pioneers. Low key. You know what I'm saying?
I think every city. I mean, Connecticut. Every city has people in it. I think we get overlooked, in the tri-state, but we're like in the shadow of the other
we've been pioneering some stuff, man.
Yeah, I mean, because we were right here. The whole inception of hip hop coming out of the Bronx, a lot of those hip hop acts would come out here to perform. So Africa Bambaataa, Run DMC, we had roller skating rinks where cats would come and perform at the roller skating rinks and block parties. We were doing all that while it was evolving and developing coming out of the Bronx. So we were like the Northern Bronx, really, and then once, Beat Street and Wild Style and a lot of those movies that documented the culture early in those days started coming out, we were right there. So then we started emulating it more, but we've always had pioneers out here.
Definitely. I wish, like I always tell people, I wish our story would get told, though, eventually. Our story would get told, but I always tell people, like, Connecticut is really involved in a lot of grassroots and early on development of hip hop, a lot of things, like in general.
Hip hop, art, fashion, all of that.
Facts. So I wanted to talk about the store Kultjah back in the day. What year was Kultjah around? When did you establish Kultjah?
Officially, our first store on Washington Street, I believe that was like between 95, 6, and 7, somewhere in that pocket. Because I had moved to Virginia. I went to school. Grew up here, went to high school for 2 years, and then I moved out to Virginia, and I was down there, finished high school, did a couple years of college. But during that time, I was back and forth. I moved down there, but I couldn't stay away because I'm still coming back and forth, going to the city, doing a lot of stuff up here. So I officially came back roughly around like 95, 96. And then when I came back, we automatically had that plan to have a store/showroom. We had already been doing stuff under the name Kultjah. We had been doing stuff before that, before we even developed the name. Like I said, going back into the late '80s, doing jean jackets, doing painting on pants, and doing clothes and stuff. But we didn't really come up with the name Kultjah until a little bit later. But by the time we did that, we already had an idea that we needed a showroom or we wanted a store. And there was so many other things that we were doing other than clothes. We were into books and incense and oils and mixtapes and all that. So our thing was to have an outpost that presented all of that.
Yeah, you definitely are the original Swiss Army knife, bro. Like I couldn't even pinpoint. I can't even pinpoint and tell you what Kultjah was. Like I would go in there, bro, and it was just everything. It was art. It was spoken word. It was incense. I mean, there was everything of the arts in there. And I want to say I might have been a little too early for Kultjah, bro. Like you was way ahead of the curve or something. But it was the only thing like it around.
I mean, because it was and still is more about a lifestyle. It's more than just the clothing. But for us, it's more about when you wear a piece of clothing, it just symbolizes the bigger picture. Somebody see you with a particular piece on, it's like, oh, you communicate without communicating to somebody that what's up, or you're a part of that lifestyle. And then that lifestyle goes into many things, into studying, reading, eating healthy, exercising, teaching other people what building with other people, trying to do things for your kids and your family. It's a bigger picture. So it's not really just about selling some merch. Not to push on nobody else. But I think a lot of people now are just interested in creating some merch and selling the merch and making money. You know what I mean? But if there's nothing really behind it, you don't have a story or anything to tell behind it, then you just, it's limited.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So we've always been about just a bigger lifestyle than just the clothing and stuff we were selling.
So I remember my first time coming into Kultjah.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being like dimly lit, and Xavier was my cousin X was doing poetry.
Yeah. You probably came to one of our poetry nights.
I came to a poetry night because he was like, "Yo, I'm doing poetry." I'm like, "Word." Yeah. So I come in there, and I'm from Stanford, so I'm like looking at all these known people, and I'm like, "Yo, what is this place?" And I remember just sitting there. I never forgot it. And we had opened up a store a few years ago in Stanford called Kultjah. Yeah. And that was a store I had partnered with my an artist I was managing, but it was very similar to Kultjah. Yeah. And 80 Grams, I forget his real name. He had his name is 80 Grams on. Instagram, but I know he was affiliated. Will I put a few pieces in there, and we began talking about Kultjah. I'm like, bro, it's so funny how this to me feels like what Kultjah was. But we was like 20 years obviously behind you. But I do think that we need in this state like some type of hubs, you know what I mean, of creativity. For people to come in and express themselves that's like black, you know what I mean?
I think it's coming back around. A lot of things work in cycles, and it's sort of an ebb and flow, and I think it's coming back around. I think you have a lot more creatives or a lot more access to seeing other creatives. Right. I think, at the time when we first started, it was pre-internet, obviously. Right. But we still had a network. We still had people in Philly, in DC.
Yeah, that thing lit,
people in Chicago, people in LA. there was still a network of people that you still connected with. But now it's just on steroids now because you can get on your phone and really just link with people, like minds and people that want to tap into you. So I think it's coming back around, and I think people are seeing the need for us to have our own a lot more. It's like it comes and goes. It's like, okay, we have our own, but then we get in a position where somebody else comes along and invests and buys us out. Then it's like, oh, okay, boom, boom. But then you get beat up and then you come back and like, okay, now we need our own again.
That's right. But there's no control without ownership.
No.
You can't control your thing if you don't own it.
No, you gotta learn that. Yeah. You gotta learn that. It's not, it may seem cliche, but it's not all about the bag. The money is going to come. But how many people you see got money and they're miserable? You got $1 billion, but you're miserable. So it's obviously that's not the answer. You know what I'm saying? Nah. But you got to find that balance.
And people pursue the money. It's like, pursue the passion, bro, the money will come.
Yeah.
Pursue your heart's desires, the money will follow that.
Yeah. Sure. But even with that, you still have to have some business sense. And you still have to have a balance and know what it's about.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Because, that's even as an artist, I've always straddled that fence of, having an art mind and a business mind. Right. Sometimes if you're too art-minded, you can just get lost in the sauce.
Right. You won't make no money.
You don't make money, or it leaves room for people to come in and take advantage of you because you're just so passionate. But then you got people that come in and
they see the business.
Yeah, milk your passion and get rich off your passion, and you get burned out. But you gotta have that balance,
Right. So today we're here at the Cabbage Barn Art Center, and you did a big collage with the kids. So I see that you work with children.
Yeah.
What is that mission, or what is it with you and the kids, or how do you feel about working with the children, or what?
I've always been involved. I think it comes from just doing art and public art in the streets. And also specifically being asked to come and do a lot of community workshops and stuff like that. But it just comes from being in your community. Right. You know what I mean? And understanding that, once again, it may seem cliche, but the kids are the future.
Literally.
You know what I'm saying? And you got to plant that seed in them if you want them to be different. There's been a disconnect, once again, based on somebody getting some money and then you just let anything go. Anything goes if you're getting the money. That doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? Because then you see the bigger picture and then you wonder how kids get this way because you was focused on the wrong things. You know what I'm saying? So it's just about, if you're about something, being able to translate it to other people and help them grow.
That's right. I always say about the kids too, because I work with a lot of children as well, especially our kids in our community, because we don't necessarily have access all the time to everything. Mm-hmm. And so one of my big things is providing access and exposure. And I think things like this, like you're doing, like exposing to the arts and creativity, is super duper important to a child. You know, the one thing that we get to do here is dream and dream big and be imaginative. And God bless us with this big imagination. When I look at this piece you made here, I have no idea where you would have even started. But I know that something jumped in your mind because God gives us this creativity. And we got to keep that alive, especially with our children, because we don't necessarily have the finances or funding to put them in different things, right? So a lot, what I've noticed in our community was kid might show interest in football, and we like, all right, we got to find this football, and we got to keep them right in that lane, in that vein of football, because of finances, right? But like, there's other things they wanted to try, and it's not nobody's fault. Like, I'm not blaming anybody for that. I'm just saying that's where we're at. And so what I try my best to do, and what I think you're doing as well, is opening those doors and these, like, we're in New Canaan right now, bro. This is major, you know? And opening up these doors and these for opportunity to express creatively.
And being in those spaces and not being afraid to enter those spaces as a black man in society, you know, because we still got a target on our back, regardless of whatever politics you want to, you know, split hairs about. As a black man moving through society, is still a way you carry yourself and have to carry yourself. There's certain spaces that you're not expected to be in. And a lot of times, you know, taking your kids into certain spaces that subconsciously they may not think they're expected to be in, and making them comfortable in those spaces will then allow them to make moves in those spaces. But if you just stay in your little bubble, then you never get that exposure. But once you do, then you see, okay, well, I can tap into that, and I can get where I can get out of it.
That's right. You know? I always say, rather than complain about the game, learn the rules of the game and just play it accordingly.
You got to play the game.
Play it accordingly.
It is what it is. It's like, you know, some people, you know, might call it, you know, code switching or moving, whatever. You got to know how to move. Everybody code switches. I always tell everybody, I'm a chameleon, bro. You have to be able to adapt. If you just, you know, one way all the time, then you're going to get one result. You got to know how to move and know how to, like I said, tap into certain things in certain places. And then, like I said, you come across a lot of people that you can meet and may have certain resources that you can use.
That's right.
You know, whatever race it is. But that still comes back to being a black man and capitalizing on that potential.
Absolutely. And just to touch on what you said about being comfortable in rooms, right? Like these type of rooms. So as a kid, I always was exposed to like different diversity and white kids and whatever, because I was always in like really high classrooms. But I bring my daughter with me to these places too, so she could feel comfort and exposure and just being comfortable anywhere. You got to be able to maneuver wherever you're at, regardless of who's there, regardless of what's going on. You know what I mean? So I try to pass that exposure thing down to my daughter as well, because that's why she's here with me today.
And it's that confidence, instilling that confidence, you know what I'm saying? And showing them how to carry themselves. You know, when they see you confident in certain situations, then they can emulate that.
That's right. And I think too, a lot of it too is like a lot of the anxiety like black people are feeling in these rooms is because they haven't been in these rooms. Sometimes, like, you know, just to get in them, you feel like this room was really warm to me, you know. And once you kind of get around it, you're like, okay, it's not really what I thought. Granted, there's probably some people that feel how they feel, but the overall feeling of it was not that. And if you come into the rooms, you say, okay, it's cool. And I think that we'll start positioning ourselves in more of those rooms. But like you said, people are definitely nervous and uncomfortable in different settings and environments.
I mean, it's sometimes, you know, the people that you think, you know, make you uncomfortable are just as uncomfortable around you, because they don't know what type of person you are. They don't know how to whatever. You know, they may be in a certain, you know, position, but it's about just showing and proving to them who you are as a person.
Right.
You know?
Absolutely. So what is the goal? Like, you still located in Norwalk, or you moving around, or what you working on these days?
I mean, we still have, you know, our last store we closed, you know, roughly around, I mean, what was that? You know, 2010 or so, you know, because it was that internet bubble. You know, I mean, we started doing a lot more business on internet. You know, you have a brick and mortar store, your overhead is unnecessary because you're making so much money online, and then the foot traffic switches up. So, you know, since then, we've been online, we've been wholesaling to other places, you know, around the country, you know, people from Japan and Germany.
That's awesome. I'm glad you're
still online.
Word.
So, I mean, and that's really always been the key, is to maintain, you know, and people talk about brand building. It's, to me, it hasn't been about, you know, exploding.
Right.
You know, it's been about, you know, maintaining and gradually increasing, you know, your clientele base.
Right.
And it's a global market, you know what I'm saying? So I never wanted to become that brand that everybody thinks is so high and crazy one year, and then the next year you won't be caught dead wearing it. You know what I'm saying? It's like certain brands just stay at that level, but they have a core audience. They got people that come around and buy their product regardless. So you don't have to play all the games and get Jay-Z to wear a hat and all that. I'm not into that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you know, I want those people to come to me because they want the brand, not me go to them and give them something and think I'm gonna get famous because he wore it.
That's
you know
funny.
You
said that. It's funny you said that. I was going through a lot in my life. Like I had a liquor store and we was going through trials, bro. Like COVID came, it was crazy.
Yeah.
And I remember just reaching out for help to people and like nobody helping me. And I'm like, damn, man, I gotta raise myself up, like you know, to be a peer with these people because I don't want to comb my hand out, like you said. I don't want to come to give Jay-Z a hat and say, "Yo, wear my hat," and I'm on, like because I created this line here and I kind of went that route with a few artists. A few of them wore it, but they didn't tag me or whatever. It's cool, but I can't depend on them to make me. You know what I'm saying? So it is very important to brand your own thing and raise yourself to a level of a peer so that they can respect it that way and wear it that way. Because if they think you like on some like you need them, they act a little weird.
Yeah, you want people really to come to you.
For
you know what I'm saying? They're not being on no, you know, chauvinistic type of thing. But when you're in your lane and you're developing, you're building your lane, then people will see that. People will appreciate your product more.
That's
you know what I'm saying? You start to prostitute yourself and just make any old thing and do any old thing. Like I said, it's the longevity in that is really limited.
So what you're operating in, once you get to that place of, is the law of attraction. Like I'm going to attract my tribe, you know, and that's where I'm at with it now. So it's like, I'm gonna just do my work. And eventually, the people who need what I got, they'll find me.
They'll come to you. And it's global too. You know what I'm saying? It's global. It's, you know, people get caught in a little town or be like, "Oh, Connecticut ain't this," or then United States ain't this, and yo, I'm telling me, Sweden, Germany, you know,
that's the other thing you spoke on. I wanted to speak on.
All over. It's like it's a global, and the reality is, a lot of people from other countries, their radar is a lot different. You know, their sense of authenticity is a little bit, not to say more fine-tuned, but they're looking for specific stuff that they deem authentic. Because they're getting it from the outside. You know what I'm saying? So you don't have to pander to people for that.
It's so funny you said that because back in the day, I used to rap. I used to rap because I never focused on Stanford. This was the beginning of like MySpace. So my mindset was always, man, there's a whole world out there, bro. I went right around this little city because I'm like, these guys, they hate anyway. So go around. But we are in a global market. We have the opportunity now to go on the internet and see what they're wearing over in anywhere.
Right off your phone.
You know what I'm saying? Back in the day, you had to go, like, you was down south, you was stuck, bro. You ain't know fashion. You ain't know what was going on up here.
Unless you saw the magazine and the source or something on Vibe, and then you got the number out the back of the thing,
or your peoples came down south or something, you know what I'm saying? But now we in a space where there's like a looking glass, man. You can just go on your phone and like mirror on the wall and looking around anywhere around like a portal, man.
You hit the button and people you are able to make a transaction. People could send you some money.
It's crazy,
Shipping is nothing. It's boom.
It's beautiful. I love it here.
It's there. It's there. I mean, not to say, not to slight people from around here, but it's like, as a creative, I'm just saying not to let your mind get stuck on if you're not quote unquote, the thing, or you're not successful in certain people's eyes locally,
where you are,
whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
The globe is crazy, right?
Billions of people out there.
Yeah.
So again, what's next? Or how can we find you and find your art, or where can they, visit your art? Or...
I mean, definitely check out, as far as the clothing, it's just simple Kultjah.com. My art is artofjahmane.com. Studio, like I said, we're still based in Norwalk. I have a studio in Norwalk.
Where in Norwalk?
Right off of Route 7. It's called the Firing Circus building.
Okay.
It's right off of Route 7. It's down, go over the train track.
I didn't know you had a spot.
It's sort of tucked away. I mean, because it's more of the, production studio type of thing. But a lot of people come by, by appointment. And then we always doing pop-ups. We're always doing, a lot of different shows.
Oh, you know what? Y'all had a pop-up in a parking lot, I think.
Yeah.
So I seen that.
At my studio. We
call
it the parking lot pop-up. And we invite other creators because I got this big, crazy parking lot. And I noticed that on Sundays, like, the whole studio is empty. So I just got this big parking lot sitting outside. So we invite people to come down. And, people come down. We have music and food and hang out. And it's like a little market.
That's dope. Well, I'll be at the next one. Count me in for the next one.
Yeah, definitely.
That's dope. So, again, bro, like I said, man, I wanted to just chop it up with you because, like I said, you're super influential. I never seen your face.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? But I heard Kultjah forever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when I walked in here that day and saw you, I'm like, Kultjah.
Yeah.
Like that is, you did good with branding because it's burned in my head.
Yeah, that's what's up.
So definitely a pleasure to sit with you and talk about your art and discuss your pieces and your movement. And appreciate the work you're doing, bro.
Definitely. I respect that.
All right, bro. Appreciate you. Thank you, man. Yes, sir.